Are you singing along there, Mark?
Yeah, I was singing along. Yeah. Um, Hello and welcome to this episode of Motivation and Money with me, Mark Terrell, and my co-host Fanny Snape. How are you today, Fanny?
I'm really good, Mark. Are
Good
you all
stuff.
switched on?
I'm switched on. Yeah,
All
absolutely.
the good.
Nothing like a bit of a tune to jig along to. I saw you jigging
Mhm.
along actually before we came live. Anyway,
I
we won't carry on talking all about the show jingle and song. We are here today to talk about, does earning more money make you wealthy? That was the idea anyway, and we've just had a sort of pre-show chat, and there's more to wealth than I ever thought, because Fanny has obviously delved into it in a little bit more detail. So I hope that we're going to share with you lots of stuff about wealth, and it's going to be useful for you. So I think that I should hand over to Fanny to start the ball rolling with regards to the wealth topic.
okay. So it would seem sensible to start from the place that we can decide what wealthy means.
Mm,
Because the question is, what is it? If we earn more money, do we become wealthy?
hmm
So let's think about wealth. We looked it up in the dictionary, didn't we?
Yep.
And wealth is basically an abundance of something. So it can be an abundance of money, it can be an abundance of information, it can be an abundance of health, it can be an abundance of time, it can be an abundance of all sorts of things. And we then went on, we found 5 different types of wealth, and we had financial, social, physical, mental, and time. Um, I've been working quite a lot recently with what I call the 3 life currencies, which is time, money, and energy. And I would think actually, if you put physical and mental and social together, you're
Mm.
probably ending up with the 3 life currencies.
Yeah, right.
So that's the first thing to say, is that how if we're looking at the word wealthy on that, that's a great place to start. Um, my personal story, which I know we've talked about before, but basically for those who haven't watched this program before, is when I was 10 years old, due to an extreme and very sudden moment of lack in my family, um, i.e., loss of all money overnight. I decided in my wisdom to set an intention or a goal or whatever it was. I didn't know what it was back then, that I was going to become a millionaire and that would sort out all my problems. It was very much an away from motivation. It wasn't a towards. I wasn't looking forward to gold plated boats or anything like that. And I did reach the 7th digit on my net worth statement, which again, when we're looking at a net worth statement, it's just really sort of like a scorecard, really, of where you are. And when it reached that, it didn't do the things that I had decided it was going to do back then. And that, I mean, I think that's interesting because again, so it was an intention set to become wealthy with no real foundation, with no real strategy, and with no real thought behind it.
hmm
So, how, if you look at it like that, apart from having money, if I was saying I'm going to be rich, right, that might have been rich in money, or I'm going to have a lot of money. Did it make me feel wealthy? No. So that's interesting. So that's one point to make. The next thing I was going to move on to, which is sort of my little bit, and then we can talk about the motivation side a little bit, is that
mm
I work with people who earn a lot of money, quite a lot of the time, not always, but who earn a lot of money. And you can earn as much money as you want, but it doesn't make any difference if you're just going to go and spend all of it. It's what you do with it once you've earned it.
mm.
So, what I can't. Oh, what's the Charles Dickens quote? You can, in modern day terms, it's something like, if you earn £20 a year and spend 19.99 a year, you'll be fine. If you earn £20 a year and spend £20 and a penny, then you're going to end
Yeah,
up in debt.
yeah,
That's basic. So again, it's about having a budget, not having leaky buckets, not saving all of your money, but investing it instead.
hmm
Um, Not having expensive debt, and actually allowing that good source of income to be planted and grown, to actually be maximized.
Right.
And I think that not only is it the physical money coming in, I think the satisfaction of doing that as well will help you to feel wealthy. But you can have as much money as you want in the world, and if you're miserable, you won't feel wealthy, will you?
Exactly. Yeah. It's interesting. I think before we move on to the motivation piece, I think it'd be interesting to hear what you think about why people do, even when they earn more money, they tend to just move in and spend all that money. You know, they're earning, say, 20,000, and then they suddenly earn 30,000, but they still seem to spend everything that they earn. What's the mindset behind that? Why does that happen, do you think?
Well, we call it wage creep.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, I think there's a certain amount of logic in the fact that if you have a pay rise, you can spend more. Right? There's a logic. There's a lack of knowledge around the basic fundamentals of money. So, for instance, when you start to earn more money, one, you're going to pay more tax. So that's going to be a drain on your additional income. You're probably going to buy bigger overheads or more overheads like cars, houses, kids, and all that kind of stuff. And with those overheads come more expenses as well, which are often not considered. And again, psychologically, it takes quite a lot of work to be in tune with exactly how you value and and work out the kind of relationship that you have with money in order to keep it on the straight and narrow, to keep it in balance.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it naturally comes naturally really to anyone unless they've had the kind of upbringing whereby I was talking to a lady the other day, and she said that at the end of every month when her children were little, when this lady was little, she said her mum would sit down and actually go through what the wages were and where the money went. I mean, in a really positive way. And I was like, wow, what a gift. Yeah. And actually, as she's grown up, she's pretty good at handling her money. She's very balanced with it, you know. But we don't generally have that. Secondly, why do people spend more? Because it's a war out there, Mark. It's a war out there.
It's a war, okay.
It's a war out there. Everywhere we go, we have got people telling us what we need to buy, what we need to spend our money on, what food we need to eat, what we deserve, what we should have, what clothes we should wear, what holidays we should go on, cars we should drive. And it's all crafted by people who are psychologically trying to infest our brains. And let's face it, a lot of people are extremely good at it. So you've got that coming up as well. Mm-hmm. So for people, and also then you've got people who work really hard, like many of us do. You then get a little bit of extra reward. You've got a certain amount of, well, I deserve it.
Yeah.
Partner that with no financial education at school, and usually pretty crap messages coming from a lot of our parents as we're growing up, because that's what they've been taught. And that's why we end up either trapped on the hamster wheel of life, or getting into debt.
Yeah. But don't you think that running a business actually makes you hopefully a little bit more savvy with this stuff? Because you know that the money, it's got to be managed better. Because I can remember early days when I was in my retail business, I was sort of in charge of the sort of finances to a degree in the business, but I also was very much in control of the money at home as well. And can you remember there was a software product called Microsoft Money? I don't know whether it's still around.
Where did it go? Honestly,
I don't know, but I used to use that diligently. I'd go through all my statements and put everything in there, so I knew exactly where everything was going. Because I thought, well, if I do it at work, then surely I should be doing it at home, because I would start, that age just got a mortgage and all the other stuff, that the expenses start. And I just wanted to know where it's all going. And it wasn't a control thing. It was just thinking, well, this money comes in and goes out, but I just want to have more of a handle on where we're spending it. And once you do that, it's quite an eye opener. Now, if you're running a business, I just want to remember this. There's a guy that he's got a great YouTube channel called James Sinclair, and he's very open about his business. And he does great videos, and he does a seminar actually as well you can pay to go to. But he's very generous with the way that he runs his business, because he will basically say, look, this is what I'm going to do. And he'll say, I'm going to buy this flat, and this is how it's going to, this sort of block of flats, I should say, and this is how it's going to work. And he basically opens up everything. And he said, and one of the things he says is you've got to know all the numbers. You've got to know where the money, where it's coming from, where it's going out. That's the only way you can run a business. If you're not like that, there's no way you can your business will probably survive.
And the same at home.
Yeah,
it is the same at home. However, I don't mean to be funny or anything, but you grew up in a retail environment, right? I mean, so I used to play shops with my sister, and we got to a point. This is when I was little. We used to go to the shop and buy Mars bars and things like that. And then we'd come home and we'd sell them to the locals for exactly what we bought them for. Okay. Now, I was brought up until about the age of 10. I had no money, didn't even really feature in my life. Neither of my parents I saw work. My mum didn't work. My dad, who had left when I was 1, I never saw him go to work. I had no role models of somebody going to work and earning money and all that kind of stuff. I lived in a big house. There was plenty of money, all that kind of stuff. And so what was I supposed to learn from that? And like you, it was only when my mum set up her sandwich business when we lost all our money. And I was literally having to work out, well, hang on a minute, 2 bits of bread, a bit of cheese, a bit of lettuce, a bit of tomato. How much does that cost? Well, then we need to make the margin so we can pay for the van, the petrol, the wages and all that kind of stuff. But I think I work with quite a lot of very small business owners, and you would be amazed as to how many people, even with like a number of customers on a daily basis, are still using a pad and paper. Really, seriously.
Yeah, no, I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it for a minute.
So when you say, don't you think when you've got a business, I think that if you have managed to stay in business for a certain length of time, and I'm not going to put a time limit on that, I think you have to, right? Because if not, you're going to get into trouble.
Yeah.
But I think there are an awful lot of sole traders, business owners in their first year who come the end are like, thank God for making tax digital on that front.
Well, yeah, it might help an awful lot of people actually realise that they've got to get those figures, every quarter as opposed to every year, and not do it something that's once a year. You just go and visit the accountant or whichever way you do your tax return. But let's get back on track with regards to wealth. Go on.
Will earning loads more money? Will earning lots more money make you wealthy? It's going to depend on your lifestyle, isn't it? I mean, I'm not a big spender. I don't really value. I don't really go out and buy expensive things. I'm possibly a little bit more scarcity, a bit more like my dad in some respects. I probably should buy something new, but yet I have that middle name is perfectly adequate. Therefore, for my wealth building, I found it relatively easy. Right, because my thing was I would over budget and underspend. So I'd go, that holiday is going to cost us $4,000. It would end up costing us $3,000, and I put $1,000 in the bank, win. Yeah. Whereas a lot of people will just have that automatic mindset. Will they go, well, that holiday is going to cost us $3,000, ends up costing $4,000, not the road to wealth.
Yeah. Okay. There's one little tip there then. So if you're going to start thinking about being wealthy, we're going back to the same thing, really, aren't we? Thinking about managing it and giving yourself leeway. So if something, everything costs more. Are we just having the kitchen redone? Luckily, that's probably come in on budget. But if you watch like shows on, Homes Under the Hammer and all those sort of things, it's amazing how many of those things those projects end up spending. They spend up a lot more than they envisage in the first place.
Grand designs.
But luckily, the market has helped them out because that's sort of allowed them to make a profit because the values have gone up during the time that they've taken to do the project.
Well, it might do then, but it's not going to do it now.
But at the moment, that's not the case. I don't think that's definitely not the case at the moment. I think with those sort of things. But wealth is obviously, as we've already talked about, is more than just money anyway, isn't it? As you've talked about, it's about having a balance of stuff, isn't it? It's understanding that it's all very well being wealthy in monetary terms, but that's if you've got no sort of relationships, you've got no control over your time, then you probably won't feel wealthy because all you'll feel is if you've got some money in the bank, but no one to share it with, and actually no time to spend it or do the things you want to do with it.
No, exactly. So it's going to be a complete waste of time. So, but then on the other hand, so thinking about my daughter, for instance, she's been working for a company and she's had like massive pay rise since she's been there due to whatever circumstances. And as she is my daughter, she was taught to look after her money at an early age. And it's interesting that she's finding now that, she's had some experience, like she's moved into her own flat with her boyfriend now for the first time. She's only 22. And she's, and all this kind of stuff, but she's wanting to buy a new car, and we're going on a holiday to America later in the year. And she says, Mum, God, when I thought, if I'd allowed myself to dream that I'd be on the salary that I'm on now, I would have thought that I was absolutely sloshing around in money. But I'm not. And then she said, I had £600 left over from last month's salary, which posed the question, right, is, well, and yet you feel that didn't feel like enough. And she goes, no, it does feel like enough. So the other thing is that even though she has got plenty of wealth, as in monetary terms, you can still not feel that it's enough.
Yeah, so there's a lot of psychology around it, isn't there?
Massive.
And it does also, as you've sort of alluded to, it does depend on the influences we've had in the past. So you're a money coach, talk about money a lot. My influence mainly around money, definitely on the business side, was my dad. And one of his most popular sayings, would he tell us more often than not, is you've got to speculate to accumulate.
Yeah.
And that has definitely served me well with regards to my coaching business, because I'm amazed how many people will not, let's say, speculate. They won't do anything until everything is absolutely certain that they're going to get a return on their money. And if you're always doing that, then it's almost like you've got a break that you're never going to actually make it, because you're never going to be in a position to make the most of an opportunity, because you're not in a position to take advantage of it. Yeah,
you're right. However, and I completely agree with what you say. However, as a certified business archetype coach, just saying, that's fine. But the thing is, if you're taking a certain part of your own personal mindset into your business, let's say, for instance, we've talked about the money types before. Let's say you are active full in your personal life, i.e. you go out and you buy the Gucci handbag because you just think, well, it doesn't matter, I know I'm going to earn the money, so it's going to be fine, and yet maybe that doesn't happen. So you might be a bit of an overspender, or you might spend on risk and go before it. There are plenty of people in business who are not incapable, that would be rude to say that, but have not thought through the decision-making process on what is the right investment and what is not the right investment, or what was going to work best and what's not going to work so well. So for instance, I knew a lady once who had a business that needed a certain amount of kit. She couldn't afford to buy the kit, so she hired the kit, and she hired one machine to make this product, and this machine was an absolute full pelt. Absolutely at capacity, which was then holding her back in her business because she needed to then hire another one, right? But hiring another one threw everything out, because One, it sort of like encroached on the space that she had. It encroached on the labour that she had. It sort of threw all different things into the mix, which all of a sudden made the decision of getting a second machine completely wrong. And in fact, what it failed to do was to highlight that the business model just simply didn't work unless you took the whole thing out of a cottage industry and put it into a factory, which is exactly what she didn't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I think when we're investing money in our businesses, and again, you see, you think about it when you're starting off, shiny object syndrome. Oh, I'm going to start off as a coach. Well, I'm going to have online courses. Better go for Kajabi. Or we need some email marketing. Let's go straight for Active Campaign. We can use that as a this, that, Canva, Zoom, Acuity, all these different things, which actually I have most of those for my business. There's no way that my business could have afforded those at the beginning. And I don't think I could have predicted that I could have used them to the full. And actually, in now, especially with the dollar exchange rate, I need to look at those things and I'm thinking, God, Active Campaign's got really expensive. So getting back to the thing.
Is that because of the exchange rate more than anything?
Yeah. Speculate to accumulate, I think, is wonderful. But how are you speculating? What's the thought process? What's the decision-making process behind it? I think that's really important.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, like you say, it's easy to get trapped or caught up in the shiny things that sort of come in our way, and we just sort of yell up a bit of that and about a bit of this, and before we know it, you're shelling out hundreds of pounds a month and not really getting anything back from it.
And
but when I'm talking about investments, is something that's actually is not something that's going to help me run the business, but actually it's going to open up opportunities to deliver more value and all that sort of stuff. That's what when I make the biggest decisions, that's what I base it on, is that I'm going to have something that's more valuable, that's allowing me to do more things. So,
but I'm guessing that when you make those decisions, you're sitting down with some kind of logical process to help you make those, to help you decide.
Yeah.
Whereas when we're looking at the topic, will earning more money make you more wealthy? If you were to look at that at face value, a lot of people would go, well, yeah. But again, I suppose I'm trying to attach to it is the level of thought that goes with each one of those things. So Mel Robbins talks, for instance, Mel Robbins, the high five lady, she talks about in her 5-second rule book that one of the things that helped her to just go to bed and not get out of bed for a year or so, or however long it was her husband's business, where he set up a restaurant and it was doing like amazingly well, really, really good. So they decided to expand and open another one. And there's no reason for it not to work, except that it was in the wrong place or the wrong size and not in the right market.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to do everything with a magician's hat on.
Yeah. And do you want to explain a bit about that? That's one of your archetypes, yeah?
Yeah. So the magician is the money type. I go money strike through type, because it's just a type really, because it can expand into pretty much all of your life, where you live in faith, trust and balance, where you have enough self-trust within yourself to know that if you think about things carefully, you're conscious and aware of things that are going on around you. You are open to flow, can make decisions and then detach yourself from the outcome, because you know that you're going through that decision-making process cleverly. Things will be all right. Partner that with the warrior, which is the type of action and defense and all that kind of stuff, but acting, defending, thinking about what's strategic and all that kind of stuff, and you're going to get a pretty good result, I would say. But if you allow innocence, the innocent, put your head in the sand, oh, let's just do it and let's see what happens, sort of thing, or whatever. The victim, oh, I can't do that. Victim mentality or the fool mentality to come in, you might end up with, and the tyrant, obviously, you're going to probably not end up with the decision or the outcome that you thought you were going to have.
Yeah.
So on the balance.
So the magician, and is that the one that would more likely to sort of monitor progress after they've made a decision? What's the archetype that was more likely to do that?
Well, I mean, there are 10 business archetypes, which are slightly different.
Right.
But if you're looking at your own personal thing, the magician and the warrior work very much together. So
Right.
the warrior would be monitoring what's going on, the outcomes, and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff together.
Yeah. Yeah. That's,
But
that's interesting. I really reason why I asked that is that I was talking to someone earlier about they were saying about the appraisal process, and I said the problem with the appraisal process is that most of it's not about the individual; it's about the business. And what you've got to do is actually forget the appraisal process and make it about the individual, and then it'll make it a positive experience because it's focused on what they want from their work, and that's where motivation comes in.
definitely,
And with regards to motivation, there is probably no stronger motivator than the motivation for security and stability. We might disregard it at points in our life, but actually, if we haven't got it, then we can't make sensible decisions because the stability isn't there. If everything's changing every single day and we have no sort of feeling of stability and predictability, it just stops everything from us making good decisions. And when the market is the most volatile and there's no certainty, or if the government makes stupid decisions like we just had in the UK, where they were just going to say, "Oh, we're going to just go for growth," thought everybody else, and then actually, what actually happened was everything went against them, and that wouldn't actually um, viable to do it because everything they didn't take certain things into account. So stability is essential for us to make good decisions. But then once those things are in place, it allows us to make better decisions because those things are in place. And we've also talked about, with regards to motivation and belonging, another thing that's obviously important to us. It's not seen as those higher echelons of motivation where we're making a difference and having the freedom, but actually, if we haven't got a base of feeling that we belong and that we have people that are there for us and we're part of a team, then that is going to hold us back. I can remember just when I was selling my retail business where motivation was low for me at the time. One of my top 3 motivators was belonging. That's what I wanted more than anything, and it wasn't being fulfilled. So it was because I was leading the business. I didn't feel there was an awful lot of support around me, and I felt isolated. And so, if you feel isolated, can you actually do your best work? So that's where, coming back to the wealth thing, it's got to be a mixture of things. You've got to feel secure. You've got to feel that you have people around you that are actually looking out for you and that they're supporting you. And without those two things, it doesn't matter how much money you've got. It's never going to feel that you are wealthy.
no. And there was a word that I think we could add in there as interesting that you didn't mention was, yeah, okay. So from my point of view and from working with my customers, my view is just if you can just build, it's like, what do they say? The wise man builds his house upon the rock, and the foolish man builds his house upon the sands. And all that kind of stuff. If you're going to get into a boat of life, make sure you're in as secure a boat as possible.
Yeah.
So that was always my thing, and I praise the day that I thank the day that I was taught that so early. When I'm very grateful,
Mm-hmm.
but I think the word that we need to add in here is choices, because the thing is, if you can find that level of wealth wherever it may be with those 3, 5, how many things we want to include with it, it brings choices. And when we feel that we have choice, we feel that we have freedom. We've got options.
For sure. Absolutely. Well summed up. And we've got about a minute or so until our 30 minutes. Eh?
How did that go so fast?
I know. We got really involved, engrossed in. I mean, it always goes fast, but that seemed to go really, really fast today. Hopefully, anybody watching this, it's gone quick as well. And on that note, if you catch us on replay, please leave some comments. We'll get back to you and obviously connect with us. We will share our contact details at the end of the show, which is coming up very shortly. It would be great to hear from you. And obviously, my thing's motivations. Fanny's thing is motivation. I mean, it's money even. If I can get
Well,
those
you
right.
know, it's
But
to be honest,
the reason
it's
why we
about
do
feeling
this, the reason why we do this is there's so many things that are interlinked with the two
yeah.
things. That's why we got so many topics that we can talk about.
I mean, I focused on money first because that's what people tend to focus on. But
Mm-hmm.
actually, it's all about finding that balance between those three things. It's about feeling wealthy, and
Yeah,
I know, I know it's not going to happen on its own.
But also, I think the things that link more than anything is energy. Is that, you know, there's an energy around money and there's an energy around motivation. Which, you know, if we can manage our energies and understand where we get our energies from, that's going to serve us well.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you again, Fanny, for today. Really enjoyed it, and I look forward to the next one. It's going to be a few weeks away because we're our diaries aren't allowing us to do this for a few weeks. So look forward to the next time. But until that next time, we will bid you farewell, and look after your money and look after your motivation.